When you highlight the benefit of being a good listener and all of that, what are some signals when we're meeting with someone one-on-one that we can send them to let them know that we are all in and that we're listening to what they have to say?
I used to have a guy that drove me crazy, and I shouldn't tell this story because he may listen to this and realize I'm talking about him. But he was one of these kind of, yes, oh, I understand. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's. I don't think he was listening to a word I was saying. He had just been trained to do that.
Yeah.
To me, you listen intently and you do make a lot of eye contact because you want to see the person's eyes. Because if you work hard enough, you can read what they're saying that they're not saying. But then always the next question is, that's interesting, tell me more. And then all of a sudden you send a signal. It's not my turn to talk because you quit talking. It's my turn to continue listening because I really care about that situation. If they're telling me, especially if it's a family issue or a problem, I've had more problems you can say grace over in business and personally and family and this, that, and the other. And the times people would really sit down and say, Ricky, I know that's got to be tough going through. Tell me a little bit about it. Or how are you handling it? Or have you ever talked to John or Sue or Bob, because they went through a similar situation? That's gold. That is gold, and you'll never forget that. In my previous 2 books, I told a lot of stories because we've been telling stories from Bible days. They came down through history, stories of this, that, and the other. I tell a lot of stories in the book, but I've never told personal stories. I've told stuff that happened to me personally, but I never used any names. It was, I got a buddy that did this, or I got a friend that did that. In this book, I went around and asked every single person, can I use your name? This is my last book on this subject, and I want it to be as intimate and as real as possible. And every single one but one said, yes, please use my name. And so if you read this book, you'll read about John Yates, lawyer at Morris, Manning & Martin that everybody knows, dear friend and a wonderful, wonderful human being. You'll hear about Elizabeth Homeke, who is with a CIO of a company called One Inc. You'll hear tragic stories that happened between us, and I'm not going to go into any more great detail, but and then I can name a half dozen other people that we've had intimate situations that helped us both be better people, and those are shared in the book. So it's again learning how to listen, caring about the person you're talking about, because I think that's all we got to care about is other people. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world, sang Barbra Streisand 50 years ago in A Star is Born. So, or that was actually in Funny Girl, but another movie. But anyway, I watch too many movies, obviously. But nonetheless, people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. And so we need each other. And the more we intimately wrap our arms around another human being, the better off we're both going to be.
Well, I think that's a beautiful segue to the story of President Jimmy Carter that we were discussing before we really dived in and we were recording, that I'd love for you to share, because what stood out to me is the feeling that you had after he spoke with you all. So I'd love for you to share that story.
Well, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, Crawford Long Hospital, but when I was about 6 months old, my parents forced me to move to Columbus, Georgia. Columbus is a great city and a great place to bring up a family, but it's not Atlanta. But growing up there, I attended St. Paul United Methodist Church, and when I was a senior in high school, I was president of the youth group. And by hook or crook, someone got State Senator Jimmy Carter to come speak to us one night. There was probably 80, 100 people, young people in the room. Most of us were 17 and 18, seniors in high school or juniors. We didn't have $14 between all of us added in the room, and none of us were old enough to vote. So we were not the perfect target audience for him on any day of the week. Yet he came, and I had the privilege of introducing him. And I don't remember the exact introduction, but I remember it ending with, I guess, a typical thing. And now I'd like to introduce you to the next great governor of the state of Georgia, because State Senator Jimmy Carter was running for governor at that point, and of course he did win, and that sent him to other places. But anyway, I don't remember anything much that President Carter said that night, but I remember how I felt. He made us feel 100 17-year-old kids. He made us feel like we were the most important audience he would ever speak to his entire life. And it was just a warmth. I fell in love with the man that night, and I've been fortunate to follow him over the last 50, almost 60 years of my life, 55 years of my life, and presently serve on the board of ambassadors of the Carter Center, and have had a chance to spend a lot of time with him. And he is a genuine human being. I believe a number of people might question where he ranks in the presidents of the United States. But if there's anyone that doubts whether he's the greatest former president of the United States, I'll be glad to take him out back and we'll have a deeper conversation about it, because he has by far changed the world with the things he's done with the Carter Center. And so your original question was, how did it make me feel? It validated me. He made me feel like a human being that mattered, even though I was a 17-year-old kid, a senior in high school. And when you can do that to another human being, they're going to follow you forever. Another great example of that would be a guy that everybody in town probably knows, is a guy named Bill Bowling, the founder of the Atlanta Community Food Bank. I had the privilege and the fortune of going through Leadership Atlanta in 1986. And our second program, we had lunch at St. Luke's Soup Kitchen, which Bill Bowling founded originally before he went to start the Atlanta Community Food Bank. Anyway, Bill got up, was our afternoon speaker after we'd had lunch with 700 homeless and hungry folks. And I looked at the man. I didn't know him. I'd never met him. I looked in his eyes, and I thought I was looking at God. His eyes are so warm and tender and loving that I hung on every word. Again, he validated the audience. And as a result of that, I worked hard to get to know Bill Bowling, and he's become my mentor, my spiritual guide, and really a brother over the last 40 years. We were at an event last week together, and we went to see Springsteen together about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Nice.
We spent a lot of time together. I love Bill Bowling, and he changed my life because he cared about me before he knew me. When you can care about a human being before you know them, there's going to be a relationship created. And it may not have done him any good his entire life, but it changed mine.